I am a growth hacker. I am a business advisor. I am a technology hack innovation specialist. And today we have two very interesting entrepreneurs that have formed a partnership that's going to advance the collective well-being through technology and empathy-driven design. Those are all very large words, and we're going to get into what those mean. But right now, I'd like to introduce you to my two guests today. I have with me Tamara Bauman from Wellbeing Revolution and John Ozkurt from Horizon IoT that have the shared vision that they're bringing together for attacking some of these issues involving the homeless situation in many cities across the United States and across the world. So first and foremost, welcome both of you to an Entrepreneur Journey podcast.
Thank you so much for having me and for having us.
Thanks so much, Adam.
Awesome. All right. So Tamara, you've been a client of mine now for a few months, and I know coming into Wellbeing Revolution, you had some distinct views given your background in social services with this issue. Can you just give us a snapshot as to your background and how you are doing Wellbeing Revolution?
Yeah, so I was a direct service provider providing homeless and housing services to families experiencing homelessness for 18 years. So I have that direct service experience. And then I sit on the Continuum of Care board. So I have some insight into how the governance system works to facilitate and support the homeless response system as frontline staff are working with the community to get housed. And then what I'm hoping to do with Wellbeing Revolution is to shift our mental models of what leadership and governance looks like, infused with a well-being and Pasifika lens. Pasifika being my cultural roots. I'm Tongan American. And then well-being being the framework by which I hope to affect systems change.
Okay. So John, what is your background and how does it apply to this?
Well, thank you, Adam, again. I'm John Ozkurt, the founder and the principal consultant at Horizon IoT. Horizon IoT leverages technologies and tools to connect things and people with services. So I come from a technology background with major corporations in the past. And I decided to establish my company, making sure that we can leverage the technology to help people. That was the original mission that we had when I established Horizon IoT. So my company is working on certain technologies, making sure that we leverage communities. And thanks to Tamara and her team, we bring all these communities along with shareholders, bringing together the services together, leveraging the technology to help to serve the homeless people and people in need.
Okay. Now, John, a lot of my audience that pays attention to these, they understand I come from a tech background, so you and I speak a similar language, but I was interested when the first time we met and you had brought up that part of your technology, you were really positioning it to try once again to help some of the challenges with those that are currently experiencing homelessness. And part of your background formed that vision. I understand Tamara's background being in the direct services, but what formed kind of that vision from you from an early age?
Well, I mean, absolutely. Thank you for this question. Back in 80s, I was a college student in New York, and I spent a lot of time in downtown Manhattan, which is East Village. And I saw firsthand how many people were living on the streets, especially the Vietnam veterans. So my roommate at that time was a college student at Columbia studying social work. And we were going downtown and then looking at analyzing the challenges that these people were unfortunately facing. So I made a promise to myself, and one day I said to myself that I would do something to help people in need, and that is the time that I believe that I'm having the right time to help these people right now. Again, it's not just homeless people, but there are a lot of different types of people who are in need at this stage.
Well, that's awesome. So once again, I told the audience that we have two distinctly different kind of backgrounds coming together at this point in time. So Tamara, tell me from your perspective, what's kind of driving this partnership here? What are those key things out there that you've been seeing that when I introduce you to John, you're like, hey, this is something better?
Yeah, well, I love the idea of technology being able to streamline services and create more system efficiency, because there tends to be too much bureaucratic red tape when people are trying to access services. And the kiosk is actually a much faster, more private, anonymous version, that also would allow us to collect that qualitative data that we need to actually impact homelessness system-wide here in King County, because we operate often with just the quantitative piece, but what we really need, the story behind the numbers, is that qualitative data. And I think that can be channeled through the technology and the platforms that Horizon IoT can provide.
Well, let me ask a question on that. Tamara, I'll start with you, and John, we'll get into this. I'm a taxpayer, have been, as far as the IRS knows, for a long time. Been in major cities. I'm originally from San Francisco, but being in cities, my question always is, what is the true scope of the unhoused issue today? And what are some of those main things that are facing the people on the street that we're going to try to resolve in this? Kind of one of those hard-hitting issues that when we mix up Wellbeing Revolution Horizon, we're going to try to effectively target those.
Mm, I see it as like a way to create resource efficiency and like map community assets for folks to be able to go to and circumvent like the systemic barriers that exist for so many people experiencing poverty and hardship and homelessness. And so the fact that we're centering lived experience, lived and living experience, which I should have mentioned at the forefront, is I am somebody with lived experience of homelessness. So that in itself is a major driver for why I want to see systemic change, especially for my Pasifika community members who have the highest rate of homelessness in King County. Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders have 5 times the rate of homelessness as the general population in King County. And so that is why that is a personal mission for me, but it's also a drive towards collective care, which is, obviously a Pacifica value, but also like a universal truth that human beings are hardwired for well-being. And so if we can align our systems towards that orientation, and like lean into our cultural roots, or like lean into our ancestral knowledge, and bring back the indigenous wisdom that like kept people alive for so many generations. Let's reconnect with that state
Okay.
and see how that transforms.
Now, John, I know that you've gone out and spoken with quite a few shelters and city officials on these things. Kind of, what were the main drivers that you learned from that made you more excited to try to bring this out to the marketplace, if you will, to try to solve some of these things?
Sure. I mean, thank you, Adam. First, let me tell you that the municipalities have been spending millions of dollars, and I noticed that the system that they offer or they try to provide to the end users, in this case, homeless and people in need, they don't talk to each other. So there is a segmented system problem within the industry. So our platform connects these dots and with real-time data, real-time service coordination, and feedback from the community. So I had a chance to talk to literally more than 100 shelter systems, and they all love the kiosk service platform concept because it brings the information hub access to the end user. In this case, the people will be able to have access to the services that they need in real time and where they reside. So that's very important. The second is that at the back end, the stakeholders will be able to communicate with each other and then share the information. So that is very important. Currently, out of, let's say, 100 plus shelter systems or other stakeholders, they don't know who is doing what. I mean, there's no coordination. So we're going to have centralized service platform, not just for the homeless people or people in need, but also at the back end for the stakeholders and including the government.
Well, being in technology, I'm a I'm a big proponent of streamlining things via what tech can do and automation, and I'll freely admit when I see people in downtown Portland that obviously are unhoused at the moment, walking around with cell phones, it's still a bizarre thing for me to see this type of dynamic, right? That technology is available in certain instances, but a lot of the benefits that in the private communities, right, we've been seeing in the business communities, be able to aggregate data and look at this. So I get the technology and the innovation side, but Tamara, maybe you can enlighten us. How do you define the term empathy? Because for a lot of folks, technology is cold, right? It's cold, it's heartless, it's that. Empathy normally strikes a different version of it. So kind of describe what empathy is and how it blends with this thought process of this partnership.
Yeah, empathy is a real, that one hits really close to home because I think of it as a heart-led strategy, and that's a tagline of my business. So I really appreciate the question. Can you repeat that one more time?
It's just defining what empathy means as
Right.
it's
Okay.
normally a warm word versus technology, which is kind of a cold word.
Right. Okay. Empathy. I consider that being like, I identify as an empath, being able to read and feel the emotions or the experiences of somebody else who's sitting across from you. As a direct service provider, I felt a lot of pain. I felt a lot of joy. I felt a lot of um, just hardship that people are going through as they move through the homeless response system. And so my experience of empathy is not only to be able to relate and honor their experience, but also to help provide that unconditional support and connection, to help them through the darkest times of their life. So empathy is about just recognizing the humanity in each other and honoring that. Yeah, I guess that's the best way I could frame it.
Okay, so again, the innovation word for me, it means we're trying to do something better than what's been done before to solve something. And traditionally in my world, I ask a lot of service providers, so do we have a set methodology, right? What's kind of a flow chart? How do we know that we're going to maintain on track, especially when something requires budgets and dollar signs? So as the two of you have been collaborating together leading up to this partnership, how did you kind of establish this methodology that works in between the human aspect and the technology aspect? John, maybe you can give a little flavor of that.
Sure. Before I talk about it, I would like to emphasize the technology plus empathy from the technology perspective, if you don't mind, a couple of sentences. Like
Absolutely.
Or kiosk, I would like to mention that or kiosk designed such a way that they are calm, they bring calmness, easy to use, So they support multiple languages and they could be touchless, depending on the circumstances. It also protect privacy. So it's very important, when we talk about innovation, these kinds of capabilities serving to the end users extremely important, uh, because everything is built to reduce the stress for the users and help people feel safe and respectful. So let's put this on one side, meaning that the design is very important from empathy and technology perspective. This is a big innovation, actually. So when it comes to the kiosks, so imagine someone walks up to the kiosk and asks a few questions, and immediately that person has access to services that they need. And we're talking about finding the shelters, food banks, real-time health support, virtual care, and hygiene information, all kinds of information that you can imagine that we can provide. So we create a kind of a flow such a way that easy to understand and also easy to follow when someone wants to use the services in front of the kiosk. So this is, I mean, we're not going to go through all these blocks, but we create a very, very easy way of finding a service for anybody that needs that service. That's what I can say.
Well, as you were just getting into this, you're actually jumping ahead of us. But so the kiosk in itself, and Tamara, I know I asked you this question the first time we brought this up, right? I understand the concept of kiosk. Everyone's using an ATM, knows the same thing, right? I go up, it gives me a menu to use, but within the lived experience community, when you've exposed this concept to them, how do they view what John was just saying, that this is a way for low stress ability to find and access certain services, these type of things? How do you view that, having done the lived experience? Would you feel compelled to go up and to use this? How much is technology? How much is ease of use? How much is location?
Um, I mean, I think some of the feedback that we received from the Lived Experience Coalition was like the practicality, like where like are there going to be ways to direct people to a public restroom, and the location of the kiosks. I think we're and how that's going to be messaged to the broader community. I think those were the feedback that they had listed, at least the last time I checked in with them. Um, and I believe that was the gist of their feedback. But do you remember something in particular? Or,
No, I'm just saying that from you having been through this, right? If we all of a
yeah.
sudden go out to a community in King County and we plunk down a kiosk or two, I know John had mentioned, you know, the location based, right? Whether it's at a shelter, whether it's at a public location, a library, these type of things. But John, if you could, I know on the previous slide, we're kind of walking through some of these services. How flexible are these kiosks, right? As far as the ability to access services, is it every kiosk is exactly the same as far as linking out to services? What's kind of that dynamic?
Beautiful question. There are a lot of different types of needs based on my communication with the stakeholders like shelters. Some of them, they need to deploy kiosks indoors. So there are indoor kiosks, some of them external kiosks that where we could deploy them in front of the libraries or in like transit hubs. So some of the actually shelter systems, actually one of the municipalities, they told me that the team told me that they would need the kiosk in a van. So that the social workers, when they drive the van, they work with the homeless people. They give some information directly to the homeless people leveraging the kiosk. So there are so many different use cases, and then we have all types of kiosks available from the interface perspective. It's a cloud-based services, so we just visualize the relevant information within the geography that we are deploying the kiosk, so we can understand the location, and then we localize the services based on that location where we deploy the kiosks and any kind of
Okay.
services.
Yeah, and for the audience, just once again, think of the kiosk, the user interface. It's kind of like a phone, right? If I have access to a service, the kiosk itself is not generating information. It's going out and getting it from a different source. It's rendering it. It's also not capturing any personalized information, even login information, et cetera. So it's completely flexible from that standpoint, which to me makes it very interesting when we talk about logistics. And when we talk about logistics, both John and Tamara know that I'm like, okay, where's the beef? I'm the generation that says that. So as we get going and people are looking at this, say, this sounds interesting. What's the next step? What is the next step? Tamara, kind of walk me through how you see a pilot kind of going. What's the time frame on it? What are the steps? What are we looking for from others that want to help out?
Yeah, so I've been kind of messaging this to the communities I work in, and the audit tool is something that is a priority for me personally and for the community who is expressing a desire to shift power back from the institutions to the communities to create more autonomy and like self-governance and collective care models. So I imagine this partnership being like a mechanism by which we can start collecting data about the homeless response system anonymously through the kiosks, through other platforms that might indicate how we're doing and like if we are being successful. Are people accessing services more often? Are they returning to services? Are they like staying housed longer? Are they like reporting higher how, excuse me, better health outcomes? So I see this being like a large scale well-being movement and through the well-being revolutions, like capacity building and training and community education pieces.
Okay, John, I listened to that and coming from technology. I'm like, okay, we're going to do a pilot. It's going to be these defined timelines, these defined KPIs, right, key performance indicators that we're looking at to say if it's working or not. So from your background, how do you take a look at a trial or a pilot deployment when we're dealing out in the field? How would you scope that out?
Sure.
And for the
Thank
next
you.
slide, how will we know if it's working?
Sure. Let me first talk about what is needed to get to the pilot phase. So we need, thanks to Tamara and her team, we need communities and stakeholders and information that we need to ingest that information into the cloud system, right? Into the system. That information will be reflected based on the location through kiosks, which means there's going to be some router, we leverage cellular network and the kiosks. So localization and type of information which will be provided will be the key thing to design that is going to be important. Later on, we will find the deployment areas. So it could be transit hubs or libraries or any places that we believe that the people in need will have access to the kiosks. So once we start the pilot, there's a learning experience, a kind of like a lab for us, right? We will listen, we will adopt, and we will improve. So no single place is the same. So we're going to have to learn all the time. So what is our cost? The key thing is we trying to show the industry or the government or the overall community that we have a low cost and high impact potential to change the current system. That's what we want to do here. We want to eliminate the cost for the current cost, $35,000 to $36,000 per homeless person per year, and imagine 1 million times 35,000, $40 billion. We can do much bigger impact with the kiosk system that the people in need, they will have access to the right information at the right time, at the right moment. So this is what we're trying to do. So I hope this answers your question, maybe more than that, but.
Yeah. So again, for me, I always view this as I'm paying for services today as a taxpayer.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, if we could get better outcomes for money spent, then that's something. But in conversations with both of you, I know that looking at those that are currently experiencing the homelessness in their lives, right? Dignity is important, which is the empathy component. Accessibility is a big thing, which is why I also appreciate the kiosk can be ADA compliant and all these things.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately going out to private sources or public sources saying we need X amount of money to get this thing going, they're going to want to say, okay, what's it going to take? What's the transparency? And I think that's kind of the biggest thing for me with the two of you. You want to provide transparency on how the audit tool and how the kiosk system is working. And so on this slide, right, talking about sustainability and impact, one of the big things is, public dashboards. Tamara, from your perspective, what does that mean that people should they be allowed to log in and say, here's the current stat on the state of these encampments or something? Is that a positive that sunlight's the best disinfectant? Is this, if we started off by a city block, we move to a city, we move to a county, et cetera, is that innovative in your world?
Encampment resolutions are really complicated, and one of the reasons why, like, I am very anti-criminalization, because of the harm that comes from those things. I think that definitely the block in terms of like changing our public consciousness around well-being and homelessness. I think that's number one, is how we frame problems and how we frame solutions, and so yeah, I do think that this is innovative, and what I'm really looking at is getting the as finely tuned data about the people's experience of homelessness as they're moving through the system, that real-time data. That's what I would like to see coming from that, and that's how I think we'll know in real time if we're making progress or not. And that's what I find so exciting about this partnership.
Well, as I mentioned, I'm always glad to bring entrepreneurs with a shared vision together, especially those from disparate backgrounds. I know we're going to be putting out some community information and news out there with regards to this partnership. As far as that, everyone, please reach out to John and Tamara directly as per the data on this slide. We're looking, I believe, for supporters. We're looking for feet on the street that could do audits. We're looking for anyone that has funding pockets that would love to see this innovative partnership be able to get to action. At the moment, while this is very much focused on King County, because that's local, if there's interest in other cities, other locations, we believe, given the methodology that John and Tamara have set up, it is portable. By its nature, it's independent of anything in particular other than matching empathy and technology to create this innovative solution. So John, Tamara, thank you very much for joining us today. I look forward to hearing more news about this partnership in the future, and appreciate the fact that people in the United States are still looking out for people in the United States. It's a core foundation. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Adam. Thanks so much. Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you.